How deep was the prism? In my footage, it's hard to get a sense for how high the remnants of the prism banks are. Moreover, these 170-year-old remains are called remnants because they're just ghosts of their original size. In most places I've visited, the towpath mounds are only 2 or 3 feet high. And, of course, water in the prism could be no higher than the towpath. Even depictions from the canal era don't really reveal the prism depth. You might be able to tell that the bank is about 2 feet higher than the water level. A 2-foot clearance of the towpath above the water level was specified in historical documents from that era. Such design plans specify that the water must also be at least 4 feet deep. So, in their time, the banks rose 6 feet above the floor of the prism. That's a lot higher than 2 or 3 foot remnants today. Why have the banks worn down to these mounds half their original depth? I don't think it's as simple as just the banks wearing down. For more than a century and a half, the rains have washed some bank into the prism itself. That runoff builds up on the prism floor, so it's shallower now. Think about what else is built up in the prism. 160 seasons of fallen leaves and branches. Bamboo and a bunch of other bushes grow and die there every year, and then just sit there, layer on layer. So remnants are a combination of breaking down the bank and raising up the prism floor.
This is by far the closest I've seen to actually experiencing the canal. Between that towpath, this water patch, I imagine mosquitoes are a lot of fun here. That must have been part of the experience.
I've seen a unique remnant which really got me thinking that the prism floors were once a lot lower. In this clip, I describe a small stone-lined opening to a drainage tunnel through the towpath bank. I think you'll see that generally it's a lot lower than today's ground in the prism. I haven't seen any description or illustration of this kind of structure, so I'm not positive, but I think it had to be at the original bottom of the prism, like a drain hole. That means the height from the hole to the top of the bank is a pretty good hint of how high the towpath bank was above the bottom of the prism originally.
It's a lovely view of the prism.
Here, the prism is about 2 feet deep, generally. In both banks, there's stone wall remnants you can notice as the video plays. Parts of the walls seem close to the tops of the bank mounds, like the walls protected the mounds from erosion by decades of rain. I'm not saying stones haven't been removed from the wall tops, but if they haven't, the banks are close to their original height. That would mean we're looking at the top 2 feet of the banks, and the prism floor would have been 4 feet lower here.
It's a lovely view of the prism. And in none of my prior visits here have I seen this, but the standing water that's in the prism is draining upstream this way. And in fact, goes into this deep hole. And it is quite deep. I'm sorry about the sun glare. Maybe from the side it won't be so bad. So that's the towpath with some residual stone wall here. And then much deeper than that. Get it all in one frame.
is a hole with stone around it to define it. And that is draining water from the prism, some standing water from recent heavy rainfall. Now, all right, so once again, there's the prism. Down here is the large hole, which the 1992 study calls a waste gate. We're going to walk to the other side of the towpath now. Here's a view down the towpath. And now we'll go and look on this downside of the towpath. This large stone block is an upper lintel. I come to the other side of it. Looks like it might be green a little more than the last time I was here. But obviously that opening out of which the water is flowing is constructed. And given that there's a stream coming there, I don't think there ever was another block there. I think this was intended to be a so-called waste gate.